When we talk about smart animes, we're talking about animes that make you feel like you are smart as the characters themselves. When you think about psychological animes in particular, you talk about animes like Death Note and Kakegurui. These two animes are very good animes that make you think that the characters actually have brains. Unlike some other animes like Dragon Ball that end up making you wonder why people actually, if people actually think that way. The thing about Death Note and Kakegurui is that you don't end up screaming at the characters from your seat or from wherever you're watching it to do something that you normally don't have to tell people to do. It's more like common sense. Now, when you think about animes like this, they're the most enjoyed animes if you think about it. Animes like Death Note and Kakegurui. This is the main reason why people actually go to watch those animes in particular, because they're tired of watching the basic, let's say, punch kick animes. Even though those animes are good and some of them are the most top rated animes, most of the animes that are on the top of the most voted animes in the world are animes that make you think and animes that actually have characters that think a lot. Something that makes psychological animes very well liked and very well known is the fact that most of them have this kind of cat and dog perspective to how it's treated, like how most shonens have a main villain and a main antagonist. It's the exact same thing, but a kind of different way when it comes to psychological animes. Like with Death Note, we have Light and L. With Kakegurui, we have the student council versus the main characters. So there's actually something that's chasing against them. Most psychological animes follow the same thing, like Tokyo Ghoul, Promised Neverland, and Marianiki. All of them have a kind of antagonist that can actually oppose against the main protagonists or against like some other side characters that are just as smart as the main protagonist. But when it comes to an anime like One Out, there really isn't any equivalent to our protagonist, but that is what makes it as good as it currently is. One Out is like a very old anime that I don't expect lots of people to know, but it's very popular to people that watch anime or are very enthusiastic when it comes to animes. Now, One Out, the basic story of One Out is that there's this guy on the streets that knows how to play this game called One Out. Where's the anime come from? I don't know the anime name. I don't know where it comes from. But with this game, he beats a professional and then he loses. He beats him the first time and loses the second time, and because of this, he has to join the professionals baseball team. But with this baseball team, because he didn't join because they picked him, he had to negotiate a contract, and he decided to negotiate the One Out contract, where if he gives up a run in baseball, he pays them 50 million yen, and if he gets an out, they pay him 5 million yen. Now, because of this rule, we already know that there's going to be a lot of shenanigans when it comes down to people actually playing in the match. One of the main shenanigans that goes on is always them trying to tire him out or trying to outsmart him to make it so that he loses runs. But the main character is mainly smarter than everyone else in this anime. Let's just say everyone in this anime, in every team, there's a smart guy, and then the rest of the teams, there's always that one smart guy, and the rest are just bumbling fools. They practically don't know what's happening in the pitch or whatever is going on in the whole game until the one smart guy tells them, well, this happened, and then all of them are all like, oh, I didn't notice that until now, and then they win. Now, the main issue with this protagonist team is the fact that they've lost almost every match they've been in, and because of this, they need his help. Of course, they need his help because he's the one smart guy that is going to join that team, and until he joins the team, you realize why this guy is always losing, because every other team has a smart guy except for that team. So now that team has a smart guy, they're actually winning games now. So also another thing about the main character is the fact that he looks like the blonde haired friend from Daily Life of High School Boys. I'll just put up a picture of both of them. He looks like the main character looks like it's the grown-up version of him. That's what I wanted to say. So keep on watching the video. There's this guy they played against that the coach was a smart guy, and in this team they had one specific character here that I personally didn't really take offense to, but I just felt like it's a very funny mistake, or if it was intentional, I swear it's a funny joke. But there was this one guy on the team, the one black guy that you see in the whole anime up to that point, not the one black guy, the one main or like important black guy that you see up until that point. I just want you to guess what his name is. I'm going to give you time, and I'm just going to ask you to think of a name that will suit a black guy in an anime. If you thought of one, I'll tell you that the guy's name was Johnson. And with a name like Johnson, what do you think his main talents he was bringing to the team was? Because he really couldn't hit, and he was specialized in bunting, but he had to practice for that. But what do you think drew him to that team? how fast he could run. Okay, I know. I'm not really stressing about this, but I actually thought that was a funny thing. And I don't know. One Out itself is like, it's one anime that you don't really stress about because they already like settled it in the beginning that the main character is kind of rich because he's been gambling for a long time, so it really doesn't bother you when he loses a lot of money, which he has never done up until like the first match. But then after that, he started gaining all the money, and everyone else in his team really isn't anything too special to talk about. And the owner of the team itself is just not as smart as the main character, so it's just like he just wins all games and then gets paid. That's all I could say about One Out. Well, it's very very interesting. It's like watching lights play basketball and baseball, and I'll recommend you watch it. So that's the video for today. If you enjoyed it, then subscribe and like. Peace.